Good evening. It's good to be back again. This evening, I'll be talking to you about marriage. It's a huge, big ocean when we talk about marriage. Many of us are married. Many of us are waiting to be married, and some don't even want to be married. Because there was a person who once said, if marriage is an institution, who wants to live in an institution? But I want to tell you, in my opinion, I believe that marriage is one of the most important institutions that keep us emotionally stable and also bring stability into society. Because I know that in this day and age, many people don't want to be married. They don't want to be married because they feel that that's a lot of responsibility, that's a lot of hard work, and many of them are also afraid, and they wonder if it's possible for an individual to live with another individual for the rest of their lives. Let's say for the next 30 to 40 years you're living with the same partner. And they wonder, is that going to be boring? Is that going to be difficult? Or am I just going to be in confinement? Or am I going to be in some kind of a bondage that I can't get out of? But we need to understand that in the past, people never thought about marriage that way. Parents always thought that when their children came to a marriageable age, that it was good for them to find a partner, or most often in the Indian context, parents found a suitable bride or a groom for their child and they settled them in a marriage. And 9 out of 10 times, or let's say, I can say maybe 95% of the time, the partners live together until death did them apart. I just want to tell you a few of my opinions about marriage. I really think that marriage is a safe harbor. A safe harbor because a person needs to find safety and security in a relationship which is permanent. Because very often we have people who are in a relationship but are not married. They live in together, and most often it breaks up. And then it brings a lot of heartache and a lot of emotional upheaval in a person's life. No wonder that we have so much depression, and we have so many cases of suicide, and so many very unhappy people. Because when two people come together and they start living together, and they have shared, let's say, a couple of years together, and then when they separate, it's like literally, like, a part of your life or a part of you is ripped away when the other person walks away from you. And that can really bring a lot of heartache and pain into people's lives. Earlier days, there was lot less pressures and lot less emotional disturbances and depression, because they were content with their lot. Once you're married, however your partner was, you put your all to make it work. And divorces also were not that high. The rate of divorce was a lot lower in earlier times than it is now. And people, if at all they divorced their partners, it was for some valid reason, be it abuse or violence, domestic violence, or if there was cheating in a marriage, and if trust was broken. Only on those kind of situations, only in those kind of situations people actually thought of ending a marriage. But these days, when they are in a marriage, there's so much of discontent, because they don't have realistic expectations of what marriage really is. And there's a lot of confusion in role play and unrealistic expectations of your spouse that always leaves the other person feeling dejected or cheated, or they feel like they have not really got what they really signed in for. What I would like to say is, it is good to be married, because it is not good for man or a woman to be alone. Because after the initial years, and then once you come into middle age, you really need someone whom you can share your life with and who can really stand with you through all the ups and downs of life. And if you really are in a marriage and you want to really keep it forever and you're ready to work at it, I think that would be the best state to be in. Because in a marriage there is a lot of, like I said earlier, emotional security that you don't have in any ordinary relationship that you would have outside of marriage. And for partners, I would really encourage you, give your best to your spouse, because when you do that, you're actually sowing in your own field. And there can never be a limit to how much you could give your spouse, because your spouse is your partner for life, who's going to walk with you, who's going to share your troubles and shoulder the burdens of life. And if you're really lucky that you have a spouse who is really, where you and the other person are on the same page, then I think life would really be a beautiful symphony. Because you have someone's hand to hold even when you're old and gray and wrinkled. Someone who would have walked with you, who knows you, who's ready to give their all for you. And in today's context, we are surrounded with plastic relationships. And who would not really want to have a wholesome marriage where their heart has really found a home? For those who are married, I would encourage you to really work hard at your marriage and to really make it work. Because whatever you do for your spouse, always remember that you're doing it actually for your own self. Because if your spouse is okay, you are okay. And for those who are not married, I would encourage you, unless you have some very, very strong reasons not to be married, I would encourage you to be married. But make sure that you take your time and you pick someone whom you can connect with emotionally and intellectually. And I really do believe that marriage is actually a piece of heaven on earth if you have the right partner. And you are the one who's going to make that partner who you're married to to be your right partner by putting your all into that marriage. So take care, and I wish you love and success and joy in your marriage.